Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Welcome to another episode of the Open-Minded Thinker Show. On the episode today, we're going to be talking about South Africa. This is the only country that comes to mind. Immediately, Palestinian crisis escalates because it is the country that for many years bared the brunt of apartheid regime, running the country and preventing it from progressing and preventing the ordinary people, the real citizens of South Africa from, being part of the government, from progressing, from being part of the social fabric. So they fought gallantly, succeeded in defeating the apartheid regime of South Africa. South Africans are seeing things from a different perspective entirely, and that is that a group of people came from nowhere and created a state in people's territory.
You can see this is the National Executive Committee. All of us standing here pledging our solidarity with the people of Palestine. We stand here because we are deeply concerned about the atrocities that are unfolding in the Middle East, and we have passed our condolences to the people of Israel as we are passing our condolences to the people of Palestine. And we have a full understanding of how the people of Palestine have taken up this issue, because they are people, as many countries and leaders in the world have opined, that they have been under occupation for almost 75 years. And people under occupation who have been waging a struggle against an oppressive government that has occupied their land, but also a government that has in recent times been dubbed an apartheid state. As people and an organization that has struggled against an oppressive system of apartheid, we do pledge solidarity with the Palestinians. And as the African National Congress, we have always pledged our solidarity with them, and we've always insisted that the only solution for the problems in the Middle East, particularly between Israel and Palestine, is a two-state solution.
I am a strong advocate for peace in the Palestinian Peninsula. I have never seen any alternative to Israel allowing peace to reign in the peninsula by stopping to seize or take over people's land for whatever reason they are attributing that action to. But the media, especially the mainstream media, has been very, very disappointing. I mean, they've made the Palestinian-Israeli conflict look like an Israeli terrorist war.
Based on the 1967 borders as approved by the world community and the United Nations. Now, the violation of the rights of the Palestinians that has manifested itself through the occupation of their land, through bringing in settlers so close and into their land, is something that is causing a great deal of concern and has possibly sparked off this conflict that is now unfolding. The atrocities that are happening now, where the residences of people in that part of the world are being razed to the floor, pregnant mothers are not even able to give birth in a respectable manner, hospitals are being razed to the floor. But the worst part is when the Israeli government now says 1.1 million people must evacuate the northern part of Gaza, having closed all the exit routes. We do believe that this is a serious matter of great gravity and concern. And to this end, we've called on the international community the United Nations, and all other concerned international bodies to make sure that peace is installed in Palestine and that the Israeli government is directed at withdrawing this command of getting people out of the northern part of Gaza, because it is in the end going to amount to almost genocide, as many people are going to die. As we speak now, almost 500,000 people who are Palestinians have been displaced. They've been removed from their homes, they live in schools and other areas as well. This is the most tragic situation and almost dangerous situation that the people of Palestine have been exposed to. And we have called for the humanitarian corridors to be opened so that food, water, and electricity.
I can't believe that the world is at the stage of begging Israel to release water, electricity, especially as the winter is fast approaching for the people of Gaza. I do not know that there will be a strong silence from the world. I mean, when I talk about the world, I'm talking about Europe, America, and some of these countries that preach freedom, human rights, and what have you, that they will be quiet, that there will be silence while Israel is conducting one of the, brutal military operation where there are a lot of civilians, where there's civilian concentration. Frankly, I can't believe this myself. I recall last year when Russia started to target some areas in Ukraine, especially as the winter was approaching, and I watched what the President of the European Union, von der Leyen, said about the incident of targeting civilian infrastructure.
Targeted attacks on civilian infrastructure with a clear aim to cut off men, women, children of water, electricity and heating. With the winter coming, these are acts of pure terror, and we have to call it as such.
You could see how she was very vocal in condemning Russia for targeting electricity infrastructure, water infrastructure, notwithstanding that Russia really has not used the kind of brutal tactics that Israel is employing, in Gaza today. We definitely know that terrorist attacks have been carried out against Russia. We have to be sure of that. The Nord Stream pipeline was blown up, and many theories linked it up to certain people, but Russia never went brutal against the civilian population of Ukraine. They never did that. The only people that target civilians or pour aspersions on civilians for what terrorists did, or whatever you call them, are terrorists themselves. So the Palestinian people deserve the best. And that's what another South African politician said.
I begin by thanking the comrades from Palestine who have spoken, and I greet them most warmly. Welcome to South Africa. I also greet Comrade Ronnie Casserols, a veteran who doesn't tire. I don't know where you get this energy. He sends me messages at 3 a.m. You must issue a statement on this. Why are you saying nothing on that? Comrade Ronnie, there you are. He takes advantage because he knew my father. He thinks that he's my father. But I'm very glad to be here. I begin by saying the world is a very troubled place, and I don't want us to pretend that it is easy. It's not. We are faced with a very challenged world. I realized this when in 2021 I was sitting in a summit of the Executive Council of the African Union, and it was whispered to me that the African Union Commission chairperson had issued an invitation to Israel to become an observer at the African Union. Imagine my horror. I decided at that moment that I would raise my arm and would propose that this decision be rescinded. I walked around the room seeking supporters of the 54 nations, I got 3. And I include SADC in that. But I said, nevertheless, this is not going to happen. I therefore lifted my arm and said I wish to table a matter. I have learnt of this, and as South Africa, we object to it, and it must not be implemented. We want our leaders to discuss it. And we will never accept it as South Africa, and while we appreciate the role that the Organization of African Unity played in us achieving our freedom as South Africa, this decision of the AU Commission chairperson will make us consider whether we can be present in the African Union. I thought I would get support from many of the countries gathered in the room. But what I discovered is that countries that are oppressors, that continue to be colonial occupiers, are using financial muscle to provide grant and aid to African countries and secure the depoliticized support of African countries for these oppressive nations. Among them, Israel and Morocco. They're playing a very negative role in Africa. And comrades, I'm being frank here because you, in this room, you are supposed to be trade union leaders, many of you, or you lead progressive organizations, and you are failing in your duty.
Well, she has said a lot of things, and I believe that everybody is seeing it right now, the hypocrisy that is in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict lately is something, frankly, that no one would actually appreciate. This is really very bad because we're talking about human lives here. While we condemn any sort of violence, we believe that the brutality with which Israel is conducting its military operation is out of the blues. I mean, it's out of the sky. I mean, this is something that the world needs to condemn. This is something that European Union, America, and some of these countries that pride themselves in human rights needs to condemn. South Africa is standing up for Palestine and all the oppressed people in Africa and the global South. I think people are beginning to rethink and see things from different perspective, and why the mainstream media tries to make it look like an equal war between Palestine and a nuclear-armed country like Israel. We're coming to understand that that's not true. I think it's a misrepresentation. One of the parties in this conflict have been occupied, have been subjugated, have been subjected to renewed colonialism and the occupation of their land, while the other ones are just settlers that came from who God knows where, occupy people's land and continue to encroach in people's ancestral home. Justice and peace will prevail at the end of the day. Kudos to South Africa for doing this. Kudos to South Africa for standing for Palestine. And the entire world is standing by Palestine at this very critical moment. Please like, share, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already. We hope to see you in our next update. Assalamu alaikum.